Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Tangle Time Arts. My name is Nana Herron, and I'm a certified Zentangle teacher. And today we are going to be, we're still catching up a little bit. This is the video for week 19. We are going to take a look at a tangle called Bucky with a B. And as we work on this one, you'll see kind of the reference to a geodesic dome, which was created by Buckminster Fuller, hence Bucky. And I thought before we look at that tangle, we would do kind of a border of Crescent Moon. So you will need your basic supplies, a black pen, a number 2 pencil, a tortillon, and a white tile. I also do have an '08 in black just to fill in a little quicker if I need to with the Crescent Moon. But it's optional. You don't need the wider pen. All right. So take a moment to gather your supplies and really appreciate how these simple tools are going to create something beautiful with with us working together. All right. We want to start with our pencil. Excuse me, I'm still dealing with my voice issues and the asthma, but we'll get through this together. So my apologies ahead of time. Let's take our pencil and put in a dot in each corner. And then we will draw a line from dot to dot to dot to dot. And now we have a wonderful little frame there. And from there, we can take our black pen. I'm using an apprentice pen today. But you could use any black pen that you have on hand. If you don't have the same supplies, that's totally fine. And I just wanted to mention that if you don't have tiles, you can work on computer paper or in a sketchbook. Um, that is awesome. I often work in a sketchbook when I'm waiting in a doctor's office or wherever. I tend to carry one with me, and I tend to spend my time tangling. All right, let's start with Crescent Moon around our border. And for Crescent Moon, it's one of the original tangles, and it's very simple. We're going to do, we call it a half ladybug shape. It's maybe half an inch. If you look at the cap on my pen, it's about the same diameter there. Maybe a centimeter, maybe a little smaller. Um, so we do our half ladybug shape, and then we're going to ink that in. And what I tend to do is actually make all of my little ladybug shapes all the way around and then ink them in. But for those of you who like to work one by one, make your little half ladybug shape and ink it in. And then from here, I'm just going to make more of those. And I'm going to put one in the corner too. Don't want to forget that. And then work our way around. Just check something here. Yeah, we're good. Okay. And keep rotating your tile and working your way around. And once I have these, I'm going to ink them in, but I'm going to switch to the '08 just so that it's a little faster for me. Often I don't have an '08 with me, so I just use my regular pen and it just takes a little longer, that's all. You might have a brush pen or one of the graphic pens. Those work well too. And you can see that my little half ladybug shapes are not all the same size. And that's what makes each piece unique and fun is that they're not the same size. So keep filling in and rotating as you need to. And you can even fill this in at the end if you prefer to move ahead with your auras first. But I just like to get it finished while I'm thinking about it. This is my last one already. All right, so we've made it all the way around with our little half ladybug shapes and filled those in. And now I'm going to go back to my regular pen, my apprentice pen. And from here, it's just the simple um, method of putting an aura around each of those half ladybug shapes. So one at a time, we are just copying that same shape, but a little wider and going all the way around our tile. All right, we made it all the way around. And now I'm going to do that a second time. So adding another aura that's a little wider. And I do that for each one. And we're just repeating for every single one. And they're getting closer and closer together, and that's exactly what I'm looking for. I'm going to go a third time. And those areas where they're already touching, I'm just going to go right down in there. There's different ways you can do this. You can float them above. Um, but for this case, I'm just going to go right down into those areas so that they're very tightly together. And now we've made it all the way around. And for our last part of the crescent moon, I am going to aura all the way around it. These are pretty much all connecting now. There really aren't any spaces between them. So I am just going to float another aura around all of it. This time not going down into those valleys. I'm just going to float that aura around the entire crescent moon border. Just like that. So now we have a wonderful border, and you have the option of connecting these lines in here all the way around if you would like to. And I'm not going to do that. I'm going to let my graphite do that later with the shading. But if you would like more drama, you can take your ink pen and just follow along those original pencil lines all the way around. But I'll leave that choice to you. So we've finished our crescent moon, and now we're moving on to the Tangle Bucky with a B, B-U-C-K-Y. And a lot of the step outs have it with the curved lines, but I'm just going to go with the straight lines just to make these wonderful star-like shapes form. So with our pen, we are going to start forming a grid. This is a grid tangle, and I'm just going to put in several lines across that white space. And we could go across here too, just because this seems a little wider, like that. And then what we're going to do is add zigzags. So with a traditional grid, we would then, once we have our horizontal lines down, we would go vertically to make our grid. But for Bucky, we use zigzag lines. So pick any two and then put in your zigzag. It's up and down, all the way across. This one's going to go just a little bit halfway. And then over here, we have to go a little bit halfway too. Then on our next row there, we're going to do zigzags as well, but the opposite of what we did before. So where we went up and down, this time we're going to go down and up. So we're doing the mirror image of it. And then you probably guessed it. We're going to go back to what we originally did. This we kind of just have to fill in. There we go. So we do have, if you kind of turn it this way, you can see that there are squares in there. Um, and this is the part that does remind you of a geodesic dome. So very clever, very clever. Once we have our grid in there, we are going to put a dot in each of the triangles. So let's just work in this first row. We can put one in there too. So you put a dot in the center, roughly in the center of each triangle. And then from the dot, you're going to draw a line to each corner. So from your dot to a corner. If you prefer to work out towards the center, you can do that as well. But you're always involving that center dot. I think this is going to have like a half one in there. And here, this one, we're missing a little bit, so we'll just do the best that we can and stop where we have our crescent moon. So you can already kind of see that star-like shape forming in there. And now on our next row, we do the same thing. We put a dot in each triangle, roughly in the center. Here we have to guess a little bit. And then from each center dot to a corner. So it looks really complicated, but if you just take it one step at a time, one stroke at a time, it becomes very, very easy to follow. It's that repetition. And here, yes, we have to guess just a little bit because we're missing part of the triangle. All right, next row. Come in with our dots in the center. And here would sort of be one there. And then go from each dot to a corner. I think this would be kind of cut in half there. And then this one, like that. Sometimes you just have to kind of guesstimate a little bit. This would have a dot over here, so we would kind of bring this up like this. And then this is going to have a line down. So with your last row is a little bit of guesswork. And hopefully that's filled in pretty well. So now we have this really nice geometrical pattern in there. And it really comes alive when we do our shading. I'm going to do it with a pencil. You could, for drama, use a pen instead. But I think when learning this, it's best to use a pencil. So what I like to do when I'm starting to shade this one is pick a full star area here so you can see we've got this lovely star in here. And then from this center point, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 points. It's kind of like looking at a clock here. So at this point here, which would be 9 o'clock, right above that, I'm going to shade that little triangle. We've got triangles and triangles here. So I'm going to shade that one. And remember, you can always go back and shade them darker later. So I'm doing like a medium shade here. And then I am going to skip that point. So 1, 2, and then I'm going to shade this one down here. And then on the other side, so we're not going to mirror that. We're going to shade different ones actually. We're going to shade this one. So if this right here is like 12 o'clock, between 12 and 1, we're shading that. And then I'm going to skip 4 of them, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm going to shade this one kind of opposite that. All right. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the next one. So we've got another star shape here, and we're doing the same. We're shading the same ones. So skip these two and come down here. So we're just repeating. It gets interesting with the ones that are kind of like not full, not the complete pattern, but we can still follow what we're doing. There are other ways to shade too, but this one just is the original way and it looks really nice. Got that. And then we have to come back over to this side where we have the right half of the star. So we're going to come in here again between, this would kind of be like 12 and 1. And then down here is going to be, so let's say that this is almost like 6 and 5. Filling those in. So it helps me to think of it like points on a clock. All right, so then we come down to the next row here, and we already have the top half of these stars. So again, skip 2 and then come down to here. Shade that in. And on the right-hand side, you're skipping 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. And then moving on to the next one. So I would say with Bucky that shading is really key, and it's probably the most challenging part for sure. And then when we get over here, we kind of have to guess a little bit because we're missing some of the star. All right. But if you just take it slowly and take it one step at a time, um, you'll be able to shade it in. And don't worry about if one is a little off or whatever. There's no mistakes here. There's so many different ways you could shade this. But I do love the star-like effect of this. From here, I'm going to shade around that aura we did. And by doing this, this is going to help us with those kind of half areas. It's just going to kind of blend in. So I could see doing this in different colors and experimenting with that. That would be really cool. But even without different colors, the effect of this, the geometric effect of this is so stunning. All right, so we made it all the way around. And then we just have to do some shading for our crescent moon. The first thing I'm going to do is just probably go around the outside because I didn't go around the outside with my pen. So I'm just adding some graphite, heavier graphite along here. If you went over that with pen, you probably wouldn't need to do this, although you could add some if you wanted to. Again, there are so many options. That's why Zentangle is just so awesome because you can explore your creativity and discover what works best for you. And then I'm also going to add some graphite down in these valley areas. So just bringing that down. Rotating around as I need to. So this project is heavy on the shading and adding graphite, which I love. And I'm going in, I would say with like medium pressure on this project. All right, so we have something that looks like that. Now it's time to take our friend the tortillon. And you can either shade from the inside out or from the out in. And I think I'll just start from the inside. I'm just going to go over my little triangles here just to kind of smooth them out. You wouldn't have to, the choice is yours, but I think it just looks a little smoother. And like I said, once you are comfortable with this tangle, you could swap out the graphite here for ink. And that would create so much more drama. All right, now that I've smoothed those out, I'm going to go around that aura that we did and bring this out lower. I always start closer to the ink line and kind of pull it towards me to bring it down into those other areas. All right, kind of went all the way around so that our edges are kind of blended in. Yeah, that looks pretty cool. And then I'm going to go ahead and pull that down into those valleys. That all just comes together. That, and then the last thing I have is to blend along the edges here. And I didn't put any graphite over the black areas, but when I blend, I just go right over them. You're not going to see the graphite over the black anyway. I think that's it. We are all the way around, and this is our cute little project. I just love it with the roundness of the crescent moon and then the angles of Bucky. I just love that contrast. And it looks pretty cool. And I think I would love to try this with swapping out the graphite in here for maybe a gel pen, but maybe I'll do that at Christmas and put that in an ornament. We'll see. All right, so we can put our initials on this one, and there's so many options for this. I'm just gonna tuck mine in here in this little corner here. I've got my N and my H tucked in there. And then we can fill out our information to put my name. And today's date is the 20th. And it's our weekly tangle. It's number 19. This is for 2025. And it was, our official one is Bucky Bucky by Zentangle. But we also had Crescent Moon, which is also by Zentangle. So a combination of two different ones. And yeah, you can rotate that around. It's just really a fun one to work with. And all we used were two different tangles, and we created something super fun and super cool. So I hope you enjoyed this. This one is a little more challenging and does take some practice. So be patient with yourself, give yourself a pat on the back, have a piece of chocolate, and just enjoy the process, enjoy the learning process. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and thank you so much for following me and for being on this journey with me. I just love that we're traveling down this road together. All right, take care. I love you guys. Bye.